Thank you, everyone, for coming to the 2023 IUSSP Laureate Award ceremony. I really have the most pleasant task of chairing this event, overseeing the celebrations of individuals who have led extraordinary professional lives that have marked our field. I'm really delighted to have the honor on behalf of IUSSP of giving this award to Professor Srinivasan. Please, just a word to you. Please feel free to use the chat function on Zoom to introduce yourselves or to send a greeting to Professor Srinivasan, and we will convey this message to you to him later after the webinar. So let me say a word about IUSSP. As you see here, it was begun in 1991 to honor the lifetime achievements of exceptional leaders who have expanded our field and for their contributions to the advancement of population sciences and their services to the world community of population scientists, and including to the Union. The individual must be nominated by members from at least 5 different nationalities and is selected by the council through a secret ballot. The award is given annually, and since it was started in 1991, we've never missed a year. So we are so proud that Dr. Srinivasan is our 32nd laureate. Professor Srinivasan needs no introduction to our field, and I know many of us, like me, are awed by his achievements. Before I turn the floor to some of those who have worked most closely with Dr. Srinivasan, let me say a couple of words. Professor Srinivasan's academic contributions have been wide-ranging and have won him great acclaim globally and particularly in India. He's done thought-provoking research on issues of great relevance to our field. He's the perfect demographer with multiple publications crossing many areas of our field: fertility and birth intervals, reproductive health and family planning, nuptiality, poverty, and more. His work didn't stop, however, with publications. He has made input into India's national policies and programs, supported closer links between civil society organizations, researchers, and government, and even the corporate sector during his time after IIPS at the Population Foundation of India. As director of the International Institute for Population Sciences for almost 15 years, he nurtured the institute's growth, developed it from a mere institute into a deemed university, and played a huge role in IIPS taking on the National Family Health Survey, India's DHS, in the early 90s. He's been a member of IUSSP for many years, as member of many of its subcommittees, and has been actively engaged, was actively engaged in bringing the IPC to India in 1989, and also served on the council that brought or should have brought it to India in 2021, but circumstances call for a virtual webinar. And finally, he has a passion for investing in the next generation, having trained and mentored many students and young demographers, a few of whom we will hear from today. On a personal note, I count myself among those lucky enough to have been mentored by Professor Srinivasan, who was actually my first boss when I first started my career. I would also like to read out a message sent by Professor Levi Bachi, Honorary President of IUSSP and President of IUSSP in 1990 to 93, who couldn't be with us here today because he has other engagements. He says, and I quote, "Professor Srinivasan, IUSSP's new laureate, is a very distinguished scholar with a most excellent academic and research career, devoted to teaching and the welfare of his country. He has contributed to many IUSSP activities, bringing in the various committees he has been serving the gift of his intellectual wisdom and experience. Please count me as a virtual participant in the event, together with the many friends and colleagues that will convene in celebration of a colleague that has honored our discipline. Powerful words indeed. Thank you, Professor Livibachi. So now I don't want to take time away from those who know Professor Srinivasan far better than I do. So let me stop here and turn the floor to his close colleagues and friends. As you see here, our first speaker will be T.V. Shekhar, Professor T.V. Shekhar from the International Institute for Population Sciences, Mumbai. Go ahead, Professor Shekhar.
Thank you, Dr. Shireen. Dear demographers, colleagues, and friends. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am thankful for this opportunity to talk about my teacher, Professor K. Srinivasan, and to the IUSSP General Council for honoring him with the Laureate Award of 2023 for his outstanding contributions. I first met Professor Srinivasan when I joined the master program, then known as the Certificate in Population Studies, CPS program, at International Institute for Population Sciences in 1986. He was the director of IIPS at that time. I have continued to be in close contact with him since then. As director of IIPS for long 14 years, he was mainly instrumental in making it a world-class institution in demographic training and research. Under his leadership, the institute was elevated to the deemed university status by Government of India in 1985, enabling its expansion and awarding its own degrees. Large number of students from Asia Pacific region trained at IIPS now occupy very important positions in various universities, research centers, governments, and international organizations. Today, IIPS is perhaps the only university in the world exclusively devoted to teaching and research in population studies. Professor Srinivasan is a teacher and mentor for generations of demographers. As director of IIPS, Professor Srinivasan initiated the Demographic and Health Survey, DHS, in early 90s, known as the National Family Health Survey in India, NFHS. He could convince the government the need for an independent survey to understand the demographic and health indicators. This survey, over the decades, has contributed significantly, not only for research, but also for policy making and monitoring of ongoing programs. NFHS is the major source and evidence on fertility, health, family planning, nutrition, women's status, and many other issues at the national level, at the state level, even at the district level, in a vast and diverse country like India. The NFHS, which was initiated by Professor Srinivasan in 1990, has now emerged as the largest ever demographic and health survey in the world, covering more than 700,000 households. IIPS is conducting the 6th round of NFHS this year under the directorship of Professor K.S. James. This continuity in the success of NFHS is a tribute to the visionary role of Professor Srinivasan in the demographic research landscape of India. After his long tenure at IIPS, Professor Srinivasan joined as the Executive Director of the Population Foundation of India, PFI, and his focus there was to involve large number of voluntary organizations and even corporate sector in promoting health and family planning programs, particularly in the rural and remotest areas of India. Professor Srinivasan He is the author of large number of research publications. He is also known for his pioneering work on birth interval analysis. I would like to specifically mention his latest book, Population Concerns of India, brought out by SAGE in 2017, which has generated a lot of debates, not only among academicians, but even among policymakers of India. So a career spread over 6 decades and in many institutions in India and abroad, starting from Gandhigram Rural Institute of Health and Family Welfare in Tamil Nadu, Population Center at Bangalore, IIPS in Mumbai, Population Foundation of India in New Delhi, UNSCAP in Bangkok. Professor Srinivasan played many roles with his distinct mark as a teacher, as a researcher, as an institution builder, and an advisor to many governments and organizations. He was also a visiting professor in many institutions, including Australian National University and University of North Carolina. We are really delighted to see this is the first time an Indian is appearing in the list of IUSSP laureates. We at IIPS are extremely proud of this great honor to Professor Srinivasan, our former director and a teacher and mentor to many of us. Congratulations to Professor Srinivasan once again. Sir, we are really proud of your achievements, and we hope you will continue to guide and mentor demographers in India. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Shekhar. Our next speaker will be Amy Choi from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Go ahead, Amy. Amy has some slides.
I do. Sorry, I'm going to need to share them in the raw form. So, congratulations, Dr. Srinivasan. I'm going to use the wine, good wine, and the vintage of wines as a metaphor for lauding you on this illustrious occasion. So, like wine, the vintage of good demographic research starts with production and improves with age and storage. And we have in the case of lauding Dr. Srinivasan, the dilemma of riches. Where does one begin recognizing all his contributions, now well vintaged and far-ranging cases of wine varietals? So my apologies to those of you who are temperate. I first met Dr. Srinivasan in Bangkok in 1972 at ECAFE's Population Division. I was a research assistant who had just finished her master's and was daunted by the demographic talent in that office. Dr. Sukbang, Dr. Divyamurthy, Dr. Hirofumi, and Ando, to name a few, in addition to Dr. Srinivasan. Dr. Srinivasan was a family planning evaluation expert, conducting multi-country studies, training, and organizing expert group meetings. Fast forward 2 decades later to 1992, at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where I met Dr. Srinivasan again when he came to spend a year as a senior fellow with the evaluation project on family planning. In between, he had served as director of IIPS, and I'm pretty sure Chapel Hill offered him time to recover from administrative responsibilities and an opportunity to return to his family planning research interests, as well as reconnect with UNC's biostatistics department. Just a year earlier, I had met Dr. Srinivasan in New Delhi when he chaired the Technical Advisory Committee for and was instrumental in starting the National Family Health Survey. India then already had a long tradition of conducting family planning surveys, but not necessarily ones in collaboration with foreign entities such as USAID's funded DHS. Since then, NFHS has become a juggernaut among national household surveys, measuring a broad range of population and health outcomes and covering a sample of nearly 1 million female respondents each round. With nearly 6 rounds, it continues under significant government sponsorship. In 2019, as you can see from this photo, I had the privilege not only of meeting Dr. Srinivasan again at IIPS's anniversary seminar to celebrate NFHS accomplishments, but also taking him to dinner. Alas, I did not realize my choice of a rooftop restaurant required climbing many narrow flights of stairs even after an elevator ride. But Dr. Srinivasan was game, and as you can see, he survived the climb and the dinner. Like a vintage wine, Dr. Srinivasan's contributions are rich, full-bodied, and range from being zesty, as his 1991 analysis of 4 states' implementation of family planning programs, to well-backboned, as his 1984 study of factors affecting fertility control in India. Further, like a good wine, his work is profound and complex, such as proposing in 1967 to study birth intervals from reported birth histories using probability models, his 1968 paper on analytic models studying open birth intervals, and his 1979 correlation analysis of open closed birth intervals and women's ages and parity progression ratios. His work is elegant, finding in 1988 that female literacy rates explain fertility decline beyond socioeconomic variables. And his work has smooth finishes. Consider the biases he raised in 1987 about fertility rate estimation due to women reporting when interviewed at their natal homes, and has intense flavors, as his 1971 estimation methods for acceptors needed for a family planning program. Importantly for many of us, this chapter in the IUSSP volume, Measuring the Effect of Family Planning Programs on Fertility, underscored the importance of retrospective surveys for gathering population data on fertility and family limitation attitudes, practices, and behaviors. This foundational wisdom coincided with the start of the World Fertility Surveys in 1972, to which he contributed the 1980 scientific report on birth interval analysis and fertility surveys, as seen in this cover here. Well-rounded, structured, balanced, and with woody notes, the vintage of Dr. Srinivasan's scholarship has continued beyond these demographic measurement concerns to provide further wisdom on India's population dynamics and family welfare, and its bouquet has served global and national policy advising needs. We have benefited from over 5 decades of Professor Srinivasan's penetrative insights and methodological innovations for studying micro-level patterns of birth intervals and macro-level population consequences. That vintage will continue to enrich further generations of scholarship. Thank you, Dr. Srinivasan, and congratulations on the Laureate Award. And if I had this bottle, I would give it to you. It's the world's most expensive wine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. I couldn't think of a better analogy for Dr. Srinivasan. Our next speaker will be Tim Dyson from the London School of Economics. Go ahead, Tim.
Thank you, Shireen. It's a great pleasure to be able to say some words of appreciation in honor of Professor Srinivasan. His contribution to research, teaching, and administration in our subject has been immense. And it's also been very international in flavor, as has already been intimated. For example, in his very long and active membership of IUSSP, his senior research and teaching positions in several of the world's leading universities, and of course, his long-standing interest in China. But today, what I say will focus chiefly on the contribution that he has made to our subject in the context of India. I don't recall exactly when I first met him, but quite possibly it was at IIPS soon after he became the director in 1978. Anyhow, and very generously, typically generously, he invited me to be the UN consultant at the Institute in 1981. And in so doing, for me, he initiated a lifelong relationship, both with the Institute and its staff. There were some remarkable people at IIPS back in those days. Shireen is smiling. They included, for example, Professor S. Mukherjee, Tara Kanitkar, Asha Bende, Prem Saxena, K.B. Pathak, T.K. Roy, Kamla Gupta, Sumati Kulkarni, Radha Devi, and Malini Karkal, to name but a few. I also recall getting to know Shireen, partly as a result of our daily trip together back and forth between Dada and Chembur in the Institute's minibus. Yes, there were some really exceptional people at the Institute, as indeed remains the case today, and several of them were real live wires. So being the director of the Institute, I'm fairly confident that Professor Srinivasan faced some pretty big administrative challenges, which I'm sure he overcame. And I suspect that the task of being director was complicated by his need to travel a lot, in particular between Mumbai and Delhi, back and forth, my goodness. Nevertheless, during his 14 years as director, he transformed IIPS, as Sekar has already intimated. The Institute grew hugely in terms of both its staff and its teaching program. Hundreds and hundreds of students passed through IIPS during those years, including many research students supervised by Professor Srinivasan, who have gone on to become leading members of India's demographic community. In addition, during his time as director, he oversaw the construction of major new buildings on the campus, including hostels, office accommodation, library facilities, and so on. Under his directorship, as has already been intimated, IIPS became a deemed university. And of course, it was Professor Srinivasan who did, with Jack Kantner, I believe, did so much to bring the NFHS and other surveys to the Institute. Moreover, during his time as director, the Institute became appreciably more international in its scope. And this is reflected, for instance, in the contributors to the biennial dynamics volumes, which Professor Srinivasan co-edited with Professor Mukherjee. For example, the contributors included, for example, Eileen Crimmins, Richard Easterlin, Lada Ruzika, of course, who had a particular affinity with the Institute, Kingsley Davis, and of course, Jack Caldwell, with Pat. Professor Srinivasan's research output has always been formidable, something that has continued long after he left the Institute and indeed after he left the PFI. So he's published many papers on many subjects in many journals. But especially important for me have been, I'll mention four. Firstly, his work with Tara Kanitkar on the contrasting demographic characteristics of Bihar and Rajasthan. Secondly, his research with Shireen Jijiboy on natural fertility changes in India during the 1960s. Critical for me, absolutely critical. Also, his writing with K.S. James on the sociology of marriage in India. And perhaps above all, his many papers dealing with India's family welfare program and related issues of fertility and health. I don't think anyone has made a greater contribution to the field of population studies in India. And the breadth of his knowledge is unparalleled and deep. I give you one illustration, small illustration. The last time I was lucky enough to meet him in person, together with his late lovely wife, I was researching the history of India's population during the 1940s and 1950s. And it was Professor Srinivasan who directed me to the crucial role that was played by R.A. Gopalaswamy. It was a detail, yes, but a really important one. So in concluding, I'll make three points. The first is that he's a lovely man. I've been lucky enough to enjoy his company on many different occasions. I benefited from his wisdom and experience. I've discussed big issues of religion and philosophy with him, and I suspect I'm the only person present here today to whom he has sold a second-hand car. It was incidentally a Toyota Corolla. He sold it at a good price, and it turned out to be a very reliable car as well. Whenever you meet him, he's almost always great fun. And I know that many of us present at this ceremony today can easily conjure up his swift, humorous interjections to the conversation, followed by his unmistakable laugh. The second point I would make about him is that he has been forthright and steadfast in his central views. For example, maybe I should say in particular, relating to the sometime apathy of political leaders towards population issues. In short, I have a very strong sense that on various occasions, Professor Srinivasan has been really courageous in speaking truth unto power. And the final point I would make is that he's always struck me as being a patriot in the very best sense of the term. Despite its problems and challenges, he loves his country and its people deeply. So in conclusion, he's a really lovely man. This award is absolutely fitting, and many, many congratulations.
Thank you, Tim. That was wonderful. Our next speaker is Professor Franz Willigen from the University of Groningen. Go ahead, Franz.
Good. Thank you very much. It is a great pleasure to be able to say a few words to Dr. Srinivasan. We met decades ago. I don't remember precisely when. Maybe it's at the IUSSP meeting in Delhi, but I don't remember. In '92, however, I spent a month at IIPS to teach a short course on life histories in demographic research. And Dr. Srinivasan spent time at our home in Voorburg in The Hague in the Netherlands. And we enjoyed it very much at the company. Professor Srinivasan has an impressive research career and list of publications, as already mentioned, on a range of topics of population of India and demographic techniques and several other issues such as surveys. He is a pioneer in the study of fertility levels and fertility histories with limited data from individual life histories. And it is that particular subject I will focus on. Amy already introduced the subject. A critical issue in fertility analysis and event history analysis in general is the estimation of the length of intervals between events from data collected retrospectively. Can we estimate intervals, duration between events from open intervals? In the case of fertility, from the age at last birth? That's the question. This is a subject Professor Srinivasan studied in the 1960s and later, as already mentioned. Around the time, Mendel Scheps, Jane Mencken, and others studied the truncation effect on closed and open birth intervals. In the statistical literature, the subject became known as survival analysis of backward recurrence times, a term borrowed from renewal theory. Professor Srinivasan's research inspired many in population studies and beyond, and continues to inspire people today. Today, the subject is more relevant than ever. It is essential to distinguish between child spacing and stopping behavior, and to assess the impact of population and family health programs on fertility levels and fertility change. Backward recurrence times data are everywhere. The models initiated in fertility analysis have been used in the study of migration, for instance, to estimate migration rates from duration of residence data. Much of the recent literature on birth intervals built on Dr. Srinivasan's work. And I mention a few just to illustrate that his work that he did in the 60s and the 70s is still used very much today. Karl Schmertmann, John Casterline and on, John Ross and Kristen Beach, Arvind Patni, Ramchandran Yadava, I mispronounced his name, I'm sure, and others have publications in 2019, 2020, 2022, starting from his pioneering research in their own study of closed and open birth interval. So the issue is still very relevant and existing today. The problem has not been solved entirely. 3 years ago, John Ross and Beach expressed regret, and I quote, that much of that work has been forgotten. And they argued in their paper that it deserves a fresh review, and I fully agree with them. Birth spacing, postponement, and family limitations differ significantly between countries and within countries, between women in different living conditions and with different life histories. A fresh look at the work by Srinivasan, Milner Chaps, and others in the 1960s would contribute to the solution of key methodological issues in fertility research today. Professor Srinivasan, I congratulate you with the IUSSP award. Well deserved, and I would say long overdue. Thank you very much for all your splendid contributions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Franz. I think all of you have given such a rich experience of Dr. Srinivasan, and I'm more convinced than ever about the need for this award. Sorry, Alka, I didn't mean to skip over you, but I did.
No, I thought I was next. It's fine.
No, you are next.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, I am going to read out what I have to say. And I want to say that I'm extremely glad that we are here to celebrate Professor Srinivasan's elevation to IUSSP Laureate. The speakers before me have already highlighted his several contributions to the field of demography, both academic and professional. So let me begin on a personal note. Professor Srinivasan just missed becoming my boss. I don't think he knows that, but he was the director of the Population Foundation of India in Delhi from 1995 to 2002. And my own first job was in the same place in 1978. Well, so he didn't just miss me, he missed me by about 15 years. But I did miss working under him. So, but thinking of that got me thinking about how it would have been to work under him as the director. And two important points came up. When I was there, the place was called the Family Planning Foundation, not the Population Foundation of India. The name change happened in 1993. The Family Planning Foundation itself was begun in 1970 by two of India's top industrialists, J.R.D. Tata and Bharat Ram. This name change in 1993 happened for judicious reasons. The term family planning had acquired negative and sinister overtones after the period of the Indian emergency from 1975 to 1977. The emergency is remembered most for its rabid forced sterilization drive, a drive that brought down the government in elections when the emergency was lifted. As is usual in much of life where form matters more than substance, the new government of that time changed the name of the Department of Family Planning in the Ministry of Health to the Department of Family Welfare. And the family planning program itself moved its focus from the men who had been forcibly sterilized in the 1970s to women as its primary clients. A mixed blessing is what I would call that. So it wasn't surprising that the Family Planning Foundation of India eventually became the Population Foundation of India. What was surprising is that this took so long for it to happen. Perhaps if it had taken a little longer, waited until the ICPD conference in 1994, the name change would have been different. Maybe the Population Foundation of India is not the name it would have chosen for itself post 1994. It would probably have become some equivalent of the Center for Women's Reproductive Health. However, I am glad that the word population was introduced into and remains in the name of that organization, even as it has now morphed completely into an organization working on and for women's reproductive health and rights. I'm also glad that Professor Srinivasan was its director under the new name. Professor Srinivasan is a population expert, and I say this in praise. The field of population studies has rightly become much more interested in micro-level understanding of population change and in reproductive health rather than family planning as the basis of population change. But we still need continued awareness of an analysis of larger population-related parameters, factors such as population growth, population distribution, population structure, trends in the proximate determinants such as marriage or birth intervals of population processes, population dynamics as a whole. Professor Srinivasan represents a slowly dying breed of experts on these larger questions. He has a large body of research in all these areas. I call this old style demography, but there is nothing old and therefore useless about it. A larger focus on macro level population indicators will in fact help us to sharpen our micro level understandings as well as contribute to the better design of interventions, policies, and programs that make the world a better place, while at the same time keeping human rights and planetary welfare at the center of these policies and programs. Indeed, a better appreciation of the interactions between larger population processes and individual welfare can only make the goal of long-term sustainable development more tangible and more achievable. Finally, I should mention Professor Srinivasan's indefatigable energy as an institution builder. His contributions to the increased solidity, visibility, and usefulness of each institution he has graced, IIPS, PFI, ISEC, to name a few, will be remembered as gratefully as are his contributions to the academic literature. Congratulations, Dr. Srinivasan, and thank you as well for the interesting conversations we have had on the sidelines of the many meetings and conferences in which our paths have crossed. My memories of these interactions include memories of the charming Mrs. Srinivasan, and we miss her today. Thank you.
Thank you, Alka, and thank you for mentioning Mrs. Srinivasan, who I think was responsible for making Dr. Srinivasan the star he's been. We all miss her. Our next speaker is Suriporn Punpuing from Mahidol University.
Congratulations to the 2023 IUSSP Laureate, Professor Krishnamurthy Srinivasan. Today, I would like to emphasize how Professor Srinivasan is an inspired teacher. I was his student when he was the IIPS director during the 1978 to the 1992. Although I did not have an opportunity to attend his classes, but I was motivated by his academic and administrative performance. First, I appreciate his leadership and vision. With his vision to facilitate the expansion of the Institute academic activities, he redesigned the Demographics Training and Research Center into the International Institute for Population Science, or IIPS now serving, and declared IIPS as a deemed university in August 1985. During the 1991 to 1992, the last period of being the IIPS director, Professor Srinivasan also was influential in starting the National Family Health Survey in India. IIPS is selected as the nodal agency for all the rounds of the National Family Health Survey by the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Second, one core mission of IIPS is creating competent professionals in demography. Professor Srinivasan was a leader in the academic programs development. I attend a certificate program in population studies, or I call CP program. In my batch, there were 32 students from 13 countries. This CP program emphasized on demographic technique training. During my time in the demographic technique class, we had only a simple calculation as our assistant. In turn, I found that it's a powerful training method because the manual calculation enhances our understanding on the foundation of each demographic indicators and methods. Students gain tremendous knowledge on the population problems in various countries through the substantive demography classes, discussion, and group works. The highlight of this academic program was the study tour, which aims to increase the student comprehension and broaden beyond the textbooks and general classes. We enjoyed the trip and got to know more about people, culture, art, and institutions in India. The excellent IIPS academic programs provide opportunity for us to establish international networks in population study. Professor Srinivasan himself showed us how he maintains the IIPS networks. He visited me in Thailand during the time that I was the director of the Institute for Population and Social Research. At that time, I was impressed by his valuable advice, both in academic and administration work. Lastly, he is an inspiration teacher. During the 1978 to 1992, there were 4 scholars from Mahidol University who attend the academic programs at IIPS. 3 of us has become deans of the different faculties in Mahidol University. We are able to generate a large number of competent demographers, especially those from Asia and African continent, by raising scholarship from various UN as well as international organizations. Professor Srinivasan, you will be proud of the IIPS alumni and also your successors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Kumika.
It's great to hear from a student. As you see, we were all right, and we have the evidence to show that he was such a great mentor and teacher. Our last speaker is Dr. Sanjay Kumar from UNFPA Delhi. Go ahead, Sanjay.
Thank you, Shireen. Professor Srinivasan, indeed it's a great day today when IUSSP and the entire fraternity from demography is recognizing your contributions to the demography. I have a very different relationship with Professor Srinivasan, spanning for last 35 years. And I think I will reflect. I think all panelists have talked about his contribution in academic life, but I will try to reflect on some of his social life and the capabilities which he has. I would like to first begin with my relationship with Professor Srinivasan when I was a student at IIPS. I joined master's degree course in 1988 and met him for the first time when he took our interview, and finally I got selected. And then, on the first week, he taught us historical demography. As a young student of demography, in such a lucid way, he explained everything. We were thinking, oh, he's such a nice person, such a thorough and substantive demography. But slowly when we come to know about his technical capabilities, father of birth interval, and many more things, it was amazing. But the point here is the way he used to teach all complex things. He used to make so simple for understanding and comprehend, and everyone can comprehend. remarkable, sir. I have not seen these kind of capability in many of the professors with whom I try to work and as a student. Now, let me move to the second phase where I had an honor to work with him. But before that, after my master's degree, I also had an honor to request him so that can I work under your guidance for my MPhil and PhD, and he accepted that. So I feel proud to say that, yes, I am a student of Dr. Srinivasan. And you can see many colleagues have talked about his visionary ideas about NFHS as what Sekhar was telling, but I can give you an example. When he asked me to work on population aging around 33 years back, it was unheard in India, but today is the scenario, but he was the visionary at that time. He said, start working on that because that is going to be new field of research. So, well, these are the few things which he taught me, and then thinking for future. While working with him in Population Foundation of India for about 5 years together, it was again, it's not a teacher and student relationship, but it's as a colleague and as a mentor. The way we work together to design a program, use data for development programs, its monitoring, evaluation, it was amazing. And I noticed while working together, if we present some data, immediately he will just see there are some unexpected trends in data, which something is wrong there. Please go and recalculate. So that's kind of instinct which he used to say, and yes, we were wrong in calculations, but he says, oh, something got wrong. So how he used to guess and smell the patterns, and remarkable on that. And lastly, I will move towards my personal relationship with him as a family relationship, and also his social life. Well, as a professional in the office or in the class, he looks very strict. But in the evenings when he used to mingle with the people, very nice, very jolly, used to crack jokes and enjoy with people. And I tell you, he used to enjoy playing with my kids. Many times he will come to my home and enjoy, and he will call us. Okay, let's do it together. We meet and enjoy this evening. And I still remember his wife used to tell that he used to get inspiration while talking to young people, old students, and he used to feel very happy about it. So, sir, whatever we can do it now, today you have done a great deal of work for all of us. But what we can work today for you is just we keep on calling him and talk to him, and we can only guess that how happy he feels. So we'll continue to do that. And sir, whatever you had given to us, it has shaped my career. And even today, I use many of the learnings which I can't tell you in the words. So thank you, sir, Professor Srinivasan. All the very best for your future life and health. We will be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you to all the speakers. You've been so inspiring. And Dr. Srinivasan, I hope you have appreciated or taken the reputation you have and the love and affection that all of us have for you. Now, I'd like to open the floor to those in the audience who would like to say something. Several of you have indicated that you want to say a few words. So I will start with the people who've already indicated this. After they have spoken, if there is still time, and in case you would like to say something, but you hadn't indicated it earlier when you registered, please put up your hand so you can be identified. And if there is time, we'll certainly call on you. I apologize in advance if we can't call on everyone who's raised their hands, but as you know, we do have time constraints in this Zoom call. So let me start. Dr. Kulkarni, may I call on you? Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm grateful to you for this opportunity to speak on this occasion. I'm speaking as one among many who had the good fortune of being mentored by Dr. Srinivasan. I joined Dr. Srinivasan in 1976 at the Population Center in Bangalore, part of the World Bank project, on the recommendation of Professor R.G. Potter, the late Professor R.G. Potter, which was made to both him and to me, and that was something that was helpful. I was aware of his path-breaking work on open birth intervals and was quite excited to have the opportunity of working with him. And after I joined, I saw another facet of Dr. Srinivasan, that of a mentor of young scholars and leader of a team of researchers. Dr. Srinivasan led raw freshers, mostly in their 20s, to carry out a large household survey, the Bangalore Population Study, a scientifically designed experiment on family planning strategies, and develop family planning information system on computers, which was those days on mainframe computers. This was in 1970s. And all this while continuing his work on birth intervals, when he prepared a scientific report for the WFS, which was displayed by Amit Soy during her presentation, and also contributing to policy formulation. Following this, he moved to the IIPS as the director, and as has been well described, he raised the IIPS to the level of a university, and it has made enormous contributions to both teaching and research in population studies, as well as the National Family Health Surveys, and contributed to policy formulations. For 6 decades, Dr. Srinivasan has made invaluable contributions to the field of population as a scholar, a mentor, a teacher, and institution builder. I join everyone in felicitating him on this occasion, which is a richly deserved honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kulkarni. Now may I call on Professor K.S. James to say a couple of words?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I consider it as a great honor and a privilege to say a few words to felicitate Professor Srinivasan, because I'm extremely humbled to the fact that I am occupying a position which Professor Srinivasan has held and actually taken the institute to a high eminence. I'm really happy that I had the opportunity to work with him on several occasions, starting perhaps from as an evaluator of my PhD work, and starting from that since when I was at ISAC as a professor in the Population Research Center, and also thereafter in several occasions. But let me say to you, for me, the single most contribution of Professor Srinivasan perhaps is that he is inspiring and mentoring a large number of young academics and scientists in India. I think he has a community of demographers who has benefited from his advice, who has actually shaping their research, shaping their career because of Professor Srinivasan's constant interaction with them, advice on them. I am not sure whether there are any faculty member at IIPS who has not really benefited from his advice or from his inspiration or because of their interaction with Professor Srinivasan currently. So that way, really IIPS owe a great deal to Professor Srinivasan's contributions, as well as his mentoring of large number of faculty, as well as students in the institute. And I would like to congratulate him on behalf of the IIPS, as well as wish him all the best. And also perhaps many more years, many more laurels to come him on his days ahead. Thank you so much for giving me opportunity. I wish him all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Our next speaker is Dr. Srinivasan's daughter, Padmavati Srinivasan. Padma, are you there?
Okay. Thank you very much. I would like to share a few things about my father. It's a great honor for me to be among very eminent demographers and social scientists. Therefore, although I'm also a demographer in training, I really don't want to take this opportunity to speak about his demographic contributions in demography as a caliber as a social scientist. but rather I would like to talk about him as a person, things that I've observed about him over the years, and as the sidelines. The first thing that I have observed is qualities and traits which have made him so endearing to so many people, beloved, loved, and respected by many people, is that his ability to interact with people from all walks of life and all age groups. His ability to talk to them and befriend them, and most importantly, become more of a friend or a mentor rather than somebody as a demographer or a senior demographer or such things. The second is that he has an ability to talk in any multi-fields. He's very good in talking subjects beyond his demography, which I found to be very intriguing. I wondered where he found the time to learn about other fields and professions. But he seemed to be able to communicate with people from other disciplines, information technology or medicine or even astrophysicists and so on. Another thing that I found which quite intriguing is that he has seen about almost 4 generations of demographers. And the fact that he has been in touch with most of them in all generations speaks about his ability to not only make friendship, but also very long-lasting friendships. And he has been, in fact, long-lasting friendship very easily, friendships that have stood the test of time. Many of his friends, among those that are still with us, go back to the time of his college years. Another ability of his is to reach out and help others, both professionally and personally. Many people have been very kind enough to share stories of my father's help to others, even at the cost sometimes of defining and challenging or standing up to the rigid system, only because he believed in that person or the particular cause. And fourth and last is simplicity. He's as comfortable in a very humble environment as he is in a luxurious place. I've seen him never flinch or hesitate to go into a rural part of the country with very meager amenities, a very poorly developed place, and very rustic comforts, and appreciate and enjoy wholeheartedly the stay and hospitality shown to him with the same enjoyment he experienced staying in a luxury hotel some days ago in another part of the world or developed world. I can't help ponder as the years go by that maybe, I may never achieve his professional caliber or excellence as a demographer or social scientist, but I'm beginning to think that's okay. Because what I have increasingly begun to feel is that seeing the level of affection, love, and respect shown to him from people from all walks of life, not only from within the demography fraternity, but outside, I'm beginning to personally feel that imbibing some of those qualities for me, would definitely be a worthwhile pursuit and goal. So thank you very much for your time and giving me this opportunity to say a few words about my father.
Well, thank you, Padma. Thank you.
Thank you, Padma. We also have now a very personal reflection of Dr. Srinivasan. May I call on Said Unisa? Said, yes, you're there. Go ahead, Said.
Let me talk as a student. When I joined the CPS course at IIPS in 1985, students were from Afghanistan, Thailand, and Indonesia, Malaysia, and all neighboring countries. The level of English was quite different for all these students. But when Professor Srinivasan used to teach it, he used to teach it in the language which all of us can understand it. And he used to observe the students who are following him and who are not following, whether it is the introduction to demography or whether it is MCA, multivariate techniques, whatever he used to teach it. As a teacher, he used to observe the students. And from their face reaction, he used to change his conversation also. It was not like that he used to continue in the same language. And apart from that, he is very sharp. Not only at the time when I was a student, still he is sharp. And he understands the research areas from a global perspective. It was not like that he will talk only about the family planning or birth and travel. You can go and talk to him about infertility. You can go and talk to him about aging or any other issue. He will not talk about India. He will also talk about other countries. He will view the scenario of other countries. So it was quite interesting to talk to him, learn from him, as a student, as a faculty also. I have given my interview on 8th March, and I got selected as assistant professor at IIPS. Professor Srinivasan and Mrs. Srinivasan was so delighted, and they said that on Women's Day, we have selected a woman. It was so good to hear from these people about me. And I like to thank Professor Srinivasan for all his help, support to me as a student, as well as a colleague. My heartiest congratulations to Professor Srinivasan. Thank you, sir, for giving all this.
Thank you, Onisa. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is my very pleasant duty. We are here to recognize and celebrate the remarkable contributions that Professor Srinivasan has made to our field. And it gives me great pleasure, Dr. Srinivasan, to award to you on behalf of the IUSSP, the most prestigious international award made in population sciences, the IUSSP Laureate Award 2023. I've known you since I started my career and have admired your achievements and contributions to our field and to India's population scenario. I do hope a time will come when we can congratulate you personally before or at the IPC 2025 in Brisbane. So Dr. Srinivasan, I'm now awarding you this certificate virtually.
Thank you.
We will be sending it to you soon.
Thank you, Shri.
Okay.
Thank you.
And now I call upon Dr. Srinivasan to say a few words.
Dear Dr. Shirin Jijibai, President of the IUSSP, Ms. Mary Allen, Executive Director, and other officials of the Union, my distinguished colleagues from the population field who have said very nice words about me, my work, ladies and gentlemen who have taken time to watch this program, and friends. I deem it an honor and a privilege to be selected as the Population Laureate for the year 2023 by the IUSSP. I feel doubly honored since I happen to be the first Indian to be selected for this award. On the lighter side, a Chinese demographer received this award earlier than me in 2020. But India seems to be surpassing its population this year after I got the award. The scholars who have spoken of me and my works are known to me for a long time. Professor Amy Yong Choi for over 5 decades. As he mentioned, when we were working in the population division of UNESCOM Bangkok. Professor Tim Dyson since 1980, when he visited India, first to visit IIPS and later as a UN consultant. Professor Franz Williken from 2000. Dr. Suprikan from 1986 when she was student at IIPS. And Professor Alka Basu since my PFA days from 1995. Professor T.V. Shekhar from 1998. And of course, Professor Shirin Jijibai for over 5 decades since her IIPS days. And Dr. Sanjay Kumar from the early 90s. Thank you all for your kind and complimentary words about me. Thank you very much. I also formally place on record my sincere thanks to the scholars who nominated me for the award. Dr. T.V. Shekhar from India, Dr. Franz Willikens of Netherlands, Dr. Christopher Gilmotto of France, Dr. Suripon Punping of Thailand, Dr. Mahesh Puri of Nepal, and Dr. Sharifa Begum of Bangladesh. Thank you very much. Thank you. I also thank my family my two adorable daughters, Meera and Padmavati, for their unflinching love and support through the thick and thin of my life, especially during the days when I was facing a lot of family problems with my wife's illness. Now, I would like to shift to a little lighter side because I have been asked to share some anecdotes from my personal life to keep this ceremony from becoming too demography focused. There have been so many experiences and adventures in the 8 decades, 8 and odd decades of my life, so it would require so many months to share them. But I am penning them all, the anecdotes, year by year, and one day I hope to publish them if it is deemed fit. But I would like to share some lighter moments with you. In 1956, I left my home for the first time. I was a native of Madras Presidency, Tamil Nadu. I have never gone out of that. But for the first time, around the age of 20, to travel from Chennai, at that time Madras, to the city of Calcutta, in West Bengal, to join the Indian Statistical Institute to pursue a 3-year master's degree program in statistics. At that time, it was called Advanced Statisticians course, later converted to MStat degree after it became a university. As you may be aware, in those days of meager transportation and telecommunication technology, venturing from one state in India to another was like going to an entirely new country. I was taking the train to Calcutta. My family came to see me off. I am the eldest of 7. All my 6 younger brothers and sisters, my father, mother, even my grandmother, came to see me in the central station. And as the train pulled off out of the station, and after hearing their goodbyes, I'm not embarrassed now to say that I broke down and cried. I sobbed with sadness, filled with grief, that I did not see my family for at least 3 years. After my sobs subsided, I noticed for the first time, because it was a first-class compartment, one lady sitting there, a silent figure sitting in the corner of the compartment observing. She was a young lady, not much older than I was. She asked me why I was sad and crying. Only we two were there in that compartment. I told her now, very embarrassed, that I was going to Calcutta to Indian Statistical Institute, which at that time train journey took 2 nights and 2 days. She replied that she too was going to Calcutta to pursue the same degree course, and that she had traveled by herself from the state of Kerala, Trivandrum, by train to Chennai, stayed overnight in Chennai and catching the same train to Calcutta. I was flabbergasted and very embarrassed that a young lady was traveling all alone across states to an unfamiliar destination. And here I was, sobbing away. She gave me a few words of solace, and soon we became good friends, which lasted for 4 decades. Her name was Miss Grace. She became Mrs. Grace Majumdar. She entered the Planning Commission. She was head of a unit there. Unfortunately, she is no more. There are so many brave women in the country, world over, who have accomplished remarkable things far ahead of their time. And her lesson to me was that if women want to do anything, they just do it. You know, they just don't pull back. And later, when I analyzed the fertility in Kerala, I always put the status of women as an important variable. And it came out significant, even controlling for so many other variables. I have 2-3 papers on that. So yesterday was Women's Day. So I thought I will start with this anecdote of how a Kerala woman taught me to be brave and then venture to the other lands. While the previous incident was my first venture outside my hometown within India, the second significant movement was outside the country. In 1961, when as a young man, I went to Harvard on Ford Foundation Fellowship. It was a tough selection. We had so many interviews and other things. Here I was at Gandhigram. I was considered a villager where I can adjust to Harvard, Boston, and other things to pursue the MPH degree in biostatistics. There were 4 of us from India on the way to US. Our stopping point was Stockholm, where Olsen Johnson, Orton Olsen Johnson was running family planning clinics, and London, where Mary Stokes clinics, there were 5 or 6 of them at Mary Stokes. We were to study there. We were put as paying guests in a house in London of a widow very near Marble Arch, someplace near walking distance. So there's a 3-day program, all the 3 days they kept us busy. And 4th day we have to leave. We have not seen London. So the 4 of us, myself, Dr. Chitre, I remember the names very well, one Dr. Subjit Pannu and Dr. Chatterjee, Mr. Chatterjee. We were just wandering around to Marble Arch. And then what to do? We'll go to US without seeing London. There was a double-decker bus. And the driver saw us. I say, what folks, you guys, why are you here? I told him that we don't have much money to have sightseeing. We want to sightsee. Boys, you hop into my double-decker bus, and this bus goes around the city and comes back to this place. It'll take 3.5 hours. We don't mind it. You pay 30 penny each for our bus drive. I will be your guide. You can sit on the top of the deck, bus. So mind you, that is the way we got. And that man showed us everything. This is Oxford Street. This is Thames. This is London Bridge. This is the Buckingham Palace. Everything he showed around. And we felt very happy. And we were so grateful that here is a human being. We were unknown. We are from India. And it's a London tour at 30 penny, that we had. That is the second experience I had. The third one I had is a humorous one. When I went to Harvard, we had a biostatistics professor, but by the way, Jane Mencken was my roommate in Harvard. We did the course together. And Robert Reed was my professor of biostatistics. He was a very humorous professor. But in my class, there were so many medical people, hard-boiled surgeons, who were allergic to numbers. And one of them was always, they never had a high opinion of statistics. They say always, all these rude jokes about statistics, statistics, lies, damn lies, statistics, all those type of jokes also they used to have. I don't want to repeat them here. So he was talking about the death rate in Massachusetts. At that time, death rate was 7.1. This man, a Canadian surgeon, was undergoing COVID. He says, I can understand 7 deaths, 8 deaths. What do you mean the 7.1 deaths? One fellow died 1/10 or what? He was pulling the legs. Then Bob Reed got a little mad, So he told us. Then he said 7% died and 1% on the point of deaths. That's what he said. So this sometimes then, because Amy is here, I quick and final share. When I joined the United Nations ICAFE, now called ESCAP, Bangkok in 1969, the ESCAP office was located at that time in a hotel called RS Hotel. Do you remember, Amy? They didn't have a proper office of their own. See, whole second floor of the hotel was taken by the population division. It was the most unusual office environment I had ever seen in my life up until that point. Every office had a bathroom attached with a bathtub in it. Nowhere could anyone in those days have seen such an office. I don't know whether Bill Gates has got an office with the bathtub attached to his bathroom in the office, but we had the luxury. Do you remember, Amy? I don't know. We had, I don't know how many staff there had completed their reports and articles and publication papers while having their luxurious bath. Well, I have a lot of things written here, but I would like to now switch on to a little more substantive side, if you don't mind, Shireen, because I have written 50 anecdotes. I'm still writing. I have got a notebook here. Every day when I remember 1 year, I write down. I hope to publish them one day. If some publisher will agree to do that. Now I would like to share briefly two of my concerns in the field of demography and population studies, real concern. First, I feel that the discipline of demography as defined by the IUSSP is at its crossroads. If it is confined to number crunching and stating the facts on population size, distribution, growth, fertility, mortality, migration levels and trends, without underlying theories from the social sciences, such as economics, political science, sociology, anthropology, etc., it will be relegated as a technical appendage to other social sciences. It's a real fear. With high-speed computing available with a variety of package programs, including GPS, the data analysis has become simple and faster, and the demographic techniques can be mastered less than 1/3 of the time it took for my generation. There are no concomitant or equivalent improvements in the development of population theories as much as speed in analysis. Malthusian theory, written up in 1798, the principles of population, on competition between population size and growth with means of subsistence, seems to still hold good. If we expand the means of subsistence to include gainful employment, nutritious food, clean air, mobile phones, computers, housing, and so on. The major project on interaction between various systems, development systems, social systems, and population growth, undertaken by MIT under the very gloomy title, The Club of Rome, that led to publications of Limits to Growth in 72, Mankind at the Turning Point in 74, and later in 1991, the First Global Revolution, whose conclusions were considered pessimistic because they have said 2070, if you don't do, if the things go as usual, 2070 will be a very gloomy year. Seems to be a step in the right direction now, and have to be revived with appropriate theories to back their models and modifications thereon. This is my real fear, you see, because the COVID-19 epidemic and the global warming, the type of things that are going on, in the world, really puts a fear that this type of a constant increase in expectation of life of 0.4 years, 0.3 years over time is not going to be valid in the future. You may have dip in expectation of life, and today's paper says, Japan may face extinction because last year the death rate was double the birth rate, So if this goes on, I don't know. So this problem needs attention. Secondly, I feel, this is my feeling, that humanism should underlie population studies. Demographers, when they talk of birth rates and death rates, should keep in mind enormous emotional charges behind each birth and death. I have experienced it personally during the recent past, during COVID time, especially during COVID epidemic, when I lost many of my younger relatives and friends. Such a grievous loss. I lost my own younger brother. The enormous disparities in wealth and income among human beings are staggering, unprecedented, and growing. In 2020, there were 2,268 billionaires, and their collective worth was $12.7 trillion. $12.7 trillion. In the same year, there were 46 least developed countries as recognized by the United Nations. 33 in Africa, 9 in Asia, and 4 island countries with a combined GDP of 1.12 trillion, or only 1/10 of the wealth of these billionaires. The top 100 billionaires have these amounts, which is the combined GDP of these 46 countries. In 2020, just 100 people owning the top wealth, GDP, they are equal to the bottom billion GDP. Just 100 people owning the GDP of bottom billion is outrageous and does not augur well for the future of mankind as a species. I suggest, this is a suggestion. I hope some billionaire is there in this group listening to this. I don't know. Every billionaire, or every billion owned by him or her, should, out of humanism, adopt 1 million population from the lower or least developed countries and contributes to their sustainable development goals within a specific period of time. It is not sufficient just to provide vaccines and contraceptive supplies. This is cheating. My own back of the cover calculations indicate that this billionaire million interaction and service will make the world more peaceful and stable. It is not sufficient to, again, to provide vaccines and contraceptive services, but supports whatever is needed to realize the SDGs. There should be a virtuous cycle created between the top 100 and the bottom billion in order for the poor to respect the rich. Once again, I thank the IUSSP for conferring me this laureate and the scholar friends who spoke of me so kindly on this award function. Thank you, Shireen. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Srinivasan. As everyone has said, you're still doing your research and we've all learned from that. I have 3 speakers who really want to say a word. Please, may I ask you all to be very, very brief. We've already gone over about half an hour. Our next speaker is Dr. Satyanarayan. Satya, go ahead.
Thanks, Shireen. Professor Srinivasan, congratulations. I'm logged in from Bangkok.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
yeah, I think Sanjay, James, Shekhar, and Padma also, they spoke, and I don't want to repeat much. But the only thing that I would, want to add is that you not only mentored, but you also nurtured us, and the versatility that you had, between the academics, research, and management. The blend is something that we could all learn and use them in our professional lives. And wherever we are, I think we have been doing good, and you have inculcated that culture in us. And at this point in your life, I can wish you all happiness and good health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Satya. Thank you.
Thank you, Satya. And finally, Dr. Subramaniam.
Oh,
and
yes.
Then we really have to stop. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Subramaniam.
Thank you, Dr. Shireen. Congratulations, Dr. Srinivasan. You are a rare combination of a great academic and a wonderful administrator. It's very, very rare that these two qualities are there in one person, because you built IIPS, as many people said. That's a wonderful achievement, I would say. Most importantly, why I requested Shireen is the contribution you made to IASP, Indian Association for Study of Population, is enormous. As president for 4 years during late 90s and early 2000 and all that, and the conferences under your guidance were really, really memorable. I wanted to add, and still you are contributing to the growth of IASP as a Board of Trustee Chairman. As just said, I wish you many, many more healthy years ahead. Thank you. Thank you, Shireen.
Thank you. Thank you, Subramaniam. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you all. Dr. Srinivasan, the fact that we've gone over so much with so many people speaking with so much feeling, I think is a huge tribute to you and your achievements. It's really been a pleasure to celebrate your achievements, Professor Srinivasan, with your colleagues and your admirers, and learn even more about your remarkable achievements than I thought I knew. So for everyone, thank you for joining us. This ends our ceremony for today. As Nico put in the chat, remember, we accept nominations for future laureates all the year round. So please, if there's a deserving candidate, please feel free. You can go to the website and see what needs to be done. And on that note, do keep checking the IUSSP website for a most exciting range of activities and webinars that will be coming up this year. So this ends our ceremony for today. Thank you all so much for attending. And Dr. Srinivasan, a virtual clap from me and from all of us.
Thank you.
So
thank you all. Thank you.
All the
much.
best. Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you,
Thanks a
everyone.
lot. Thank you.